Legal Lens, where law talks and politics walks. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening. You are now watching Legal Lens, Season 1, Episode 4. I am Imad Hassan Basri, and as usual, we are from Legal Lens, are bringing you to look into the topic and issues regarding law, legal and politics through the lens that is easier to understand. Last week, we have the privilege of featuring a distinguished lawyer, but this time we are shifting our focus to an exciting subject, one that plays a crucial role in shaping legal minds. So tonight, we bring you Meet the Moot with Aikol, an in-depth look at how mooting shapes future lawyers and refines legal argumentation. And for that, we have invited a guest to talk about the topic. of course, one who is expert at his subject matter. So for that, we welcome Brother Hazim bin Muhammad Rizwan. Assalamualaikum, brother. How are you?
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you so much, brother. I'm fine there. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Alright. Okay, so Brother Hazim, can you briefly introduce yourself to our audience today?
Very well. Assalamualaikum, everybody. My name is Hazim bin Muhammad Rizwan. I am a third year, second semester law student in Aikol. I'm also the current sitting president for the IIUM Moots and Client Consultation Club based in Aikol.
Alright, thank you, Brother Hazim. So, like I've said just now, our topic for tonight is Meet the Moot with Aikol. So, when we are talking about mooting, how would you explain what a moot is to someone who are unfamiliar to mooting, actually?
Thank you for the question. So, what ends up happening is there's a common misconception when it appears for mooting, where people term it as just a debate about law. Now, the Moots Club in general has one of its stipulations where we're trying to change that perception. We're trying to tell you that it's more than just a debate about law. It's about actual individuals who have their opportunity and use their knowledge to argue about real cases and argue about cases that actually are intrinsically linked to the aspects of law in front of very highly intelligent, maybe judges or maybe experienced lawyers in the actual legal fraternity. Now, mooting in general takes a few different angles to it. Firstly, in the terms of there's your court-style mooting, where you're actually put in front of judges in a court setting. You also have things called arbitration, where it's a more relaxed setting in front of arbitrators. You then have mediation, and then our club also deals with client consultation, as well as other law student competitions as a whole. Now, the length and breadth of mooting, and exactly what our club does ever since its founding back in, I wouldn't say founding, my apologies, I would say the independence since 2020 by our alumni Islan, who actually gave us independence a little bit from the Law Student Society, actually, whereby they allowed us to break away and allowed us a little bit more autonomy in our approaches towards mooting. Therefore, we managed to now bring mooting and have a certain obligation towards all the students of Aikol by allowing them to compete in competitions such as the constitutional law competition Tun Sufyan, as well as maybe flying abroad to Vienna for the international vis arbitration, as well as going for the most prestigious one, the the 𝐽𝒙𝒑𝒍𝒐𝒓𝒆 competition in Washington, D.C.
Alright, so that's about mooting, yeah. So very interesting subject. Actually, that is actually my first time hearing about what is mooting all about and so on. And Brother Hazim, you mentioned just now that the club, the IIUM Moots and Client Consultation Club, isn't it? So it is 5 years old already. So can you explain more about the club, about its role and how it position itself in IIUM?
Thank you for the question. So in terms of its roles, I would say its more prominent role is opening selections for students to join competitions and putting them forth in the legal fraternity when they have limited opportunities to do so when it comes to a more academic style here in Aikol or in the faculties. So giving that exposure to them by virtue of sending them for competitions, giving them training, allowing them the facilities in our faculty to expand their knowledge and actually enhance their advocacy skills becomes the goal of our club in general and is what we strive for. And we've managed to nurture many talents throughout the years of its independence, I would say, of the club, whereby you have our mooters being able to go far and compete in Washington, D.C., in Vienna, in Frankfurt, and do well when we rank among the top 10 and the top 30 universities sometimes in the world as well.
Very interesting and impressive, yeah. The club has not only been activities in Malaysia but also international. I have a question. Does it open only for law students or is it open to all actually?
So in regards to that, now the club mostly spreads its information when it comes to selections and things like that to majority the law students, as well as the limitations are placed by the competition organizers themselves, where when we join up for a competition, let's say a recent one where we joined, which is the Law Asia mooting competition, the limitations on who can join are placed by organizers. So usually they will have stipulations such as only law students are allowed to join. So we only are able to choose from those parameters. However, we do our best to try and introduce and expand the outreach of mooting to as many people as possible. At the moment, it's concentrated on the law students, as we have a duty and, if I may, an amanah towards all the students of Aikol to give them opportunities to go far in their legal careers.
All right, thank you very much, Brother Hazim. And talking about that, actually, what inspired you to join the Moots Club, and what led you to run for president?
That's actually a very funny story. So I joined the club back in my first year, actually, when we had one of my good friends and seniors now, Akil Danish, who used to be the Law Society president. Now, he told me, Hazim, just go for it. Think about the consequences later and do your best and just try. So that took me down a very difficult yet fulfilling road of mooting at the highest level when they sent me for a competition in Frankfurt, Germany. And it gave me and opened my eyes into what mooting is. And from then on, ever since my first year, I was actually part of the club and have risen from a deputy director in the club all the way to the president I am right now.
All right, so that's very interesting. I would like to ask another question. So you have shared with us about the club's achievement, but we want to know actually specifically the club's most significant achievement in moot competitions.
The most significant achievement. I'm a little bit torn about that, but I can give you maybe one or two.
Yeah.
So most recently, we had our team did very well in the international rounds of the Law Asia competition, where they managed to win Best Memorial among all international universities who were involved. And I believe the other one would be when our team sent for William C. 𝑕𝑠, broke in the pre-moots of 𝑕𝑠. As well as the last one I would cite very interestingly was our 𝐽𝐴𝑠𝑒𝑝 team, the highest pinnacle of moot court competitions, managed to do well. And actually recently, 2 years ago, we managed to send the team to Washington, D.C. to compete at the international level. So we are very proud of the international achievements as well as the local achievements that our teams have always done, such as championing in multiple local competitions.
All right, very impressive and very proud moment lah for the club actually. But as a president itself, do you see that is there students from law that are not taking this opportunity to join the club? I mean, are you satisfied enough from the membership and all? And would you like to promote this club to the students that haven't joined this club yet?
I would be lying if I said I am fully satisfied with the number of students that join. And of course, all presidents would like more and more people to join. However, the duty of the club is never to force people. We're never a club that inspires or tells you to join the club at all costs. We are just a club here to give you the chance and the best opportunities provided by the faculty itself and allow you, the faculties, to go far in your journey. And the number of people that have been joining the club actually have been steadily increasing, and we're very glad and happy for that matter. And we're going to try our best to further promote this club through our social media, as well as communication within other people and other societies within Aikol, as well as people outside, to bring the outreach of this club to the highest level it can.
All right, so thank you very much, Brother Hazim, on the very good explanation on what Moot is and about the IIUM Moots Club. So we have been introduced about the basic things about Moots. I believe our audiences that before this don't know about Moot, but now I believe you guys have already some basic idea about mooting is. So now we are going to have a short break, but don't go anywhere. Please stay, because after this we will going to have another 2 more guests to dive more on tonight's episode, Meet the Moot with Aikol. So stay tuned, Legal Lens, where law talks and politics walks.
Why law? Thinking about the courtroom? Let's talk about what makes a real lawyer. Curious mind, bold voices, and big goals. Law school isn't easy, but that's because you're being trained to shape a society. Every class, every case you study brings you one step closer to changing life. Justice, advocacy, and impact. Whether it's defending the innocent, building businesses, or writing policy. Lawyers don't just argue, they make things happen. Logic, leadership, and law. You're not just memorizing rules, you're sharpening your logic, learning to lead, and mastering the language of power. Fun fact, the word attorney comes from French, meaning to act on behalf of. That's what lawyers do. They stand up for others when it counts. Law students aren't waiting for the world to change. They are learning how to change it themselves. Your future awaits. So if you're wondering what's next, look in the mirror, you're already halfway there. Now back to the show!
Legal Lens, where law talks and politics walks. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for staying with us. Back to our tonight's episode, Meet the Moots with Aikol. So this time we actually have another two guests with us to share more about mooting. So we have here Brother Muhammad Iman Hakim bin Abdul Rahman and Sister Putri Nur Yasmin binti Muhammad Sahari. So welcome Brother Iman and Sister Yasmin. So how are you?
Alhamdulillah, Brother Iman, how are you?
Alright, I'm fine. Alright, Sister Yasmin, how about you?
I'm okay.
Are you nervous? Is it okay?
Not nervous. I'm very happy to be here with
All
all
right.
of you today.
Alright, so I would like to have you both to introduce yourself. So perhaps Brother Iman, can you start first?
Yeah, of course. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Firstly, my name is Muhammad Iman Hakim and I'm currently in my second year of law school basically, and I currently hold the position of law student competition for Vice President of IIUM Law Society. IIUM Moots and Client Consultation.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Yasmin Sahari. I am currently serving as the Vice President of External Affairs of the IIUM Moots and Client Consultation Club, and I am currently in my third year, second semester of LLB in the 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻 Kuliah of Laws.
Alright, what a quite impressive resume from both of them. So actually, Sister Yasmin and Brother Iman tonight will explain to us the flow of mooting. But before we begin, let's check out this video.
Furthermore, the police only justification for denying his right and not giving him any alternatives was that he was due to assist in the investigation process. Based on this particular case of Abdullah Yalchin, Your Excellencies, the court determined that a fair balance test is paramount consideration, where the authorities need to balance out protection of public rights and obligations they have towards a citizen's inherent human rights, such as the right to
Now for the
manifest.
request to be allowed to pray under the open sky, shouldn't that be balanced with the against the practicalities of what
Alright, so just now we have Jen seen the sample video of the mooting. Alright, so from that, could you please share with the audience the format and flow of the mooting, our speaker? So who would like to start first actually? And if you would like to interrupt and add to each other, it's okay, you can do so.
Alright, okay. So how mooting works, you are essentially given a set of problems. It can be on various areas of law. For example, it can be criminal law, it can be commercial law, and then you are assigned to represent your client, which is either the claimant or the respondent, as we call it, or maybe the appellant or the respondent, depending on the setting of the moot. So when you're representing your client, you are essentially under a duty to go out your way to argue and defend why your client should win the case, or why the court or the tribunal should rule in your client's favor. So it isn't as simple as arguing. Anyone can argue, right? Anyone can say, my client should win the case. But mooting is all about you citing authorities, even the authorities that are not in your favor. And mooters are trained to either apply or distinguish these legal precedents and to essentially argue why these laws are applicable to our case for us to win the case. That is how mooting works. So usually in a moot court setting, it is very competitive. We have the claimant side and the respondent side. It always starts with the claimant or the appellant. And as we know, the burden of proof rests on the party who are initiating the case, which would be the claimant. So the claimant has to prove their case on a balance of probabilities. And only then the burden is shifted over to the respondent to essentially rebut the allegations made by the claimant. And then we also have rebuttals towards the end of the session, where both parties are given a few minutes to sum up and wrap up their cases, and also to rebut each other's claims. Maybe Iman has something to add.
So yeah, this is the distinction between debate and mooting, essentially. You know, in debate, you can just, I would say, I never debated before, but what I know that you can just create rationale out of nowhere. But that is different with mooting. You cannot create rationale out of nowhere. You need to find a solid authority to support your case, why the case should be in your favor. And this is another thing that is different between debate and mooting, where your advocacy skill actually put into test. You need to convince the judge why they should be in favor of you with all of your authority. Even with all the authority, the judge can still be against you. We don't know that. And this is, again, your advocacy skill.
All right. So that's all about basically how actually the moot is going. So, but is there any specific like time limit or something when it comes to competition or something?
All right. So the time allocation usually depends on the competition. Usually for every moot competition, there would come a set of rules. So these rules stipulate how many or how much time is allocated per speaker. Usually how it goes is each speaker has about 20 minutes to submit, and then the floor is passed over to the other counsel. I believe usually for most competitions, each speaker would have more or less 20 minutes.
Alright, so basically that is the format of the mooting. So I believe that is the responsibility for the IIUM Moots and Client Consultation Club to actually train the students to be in this mooting. So actually, how does the club handle the internal training of this actually?
Alright, so I believe before we even get into the topic of training, right, as the Moot Club, we provide an avenue for law students mostly for them to participate in our external competitions. So before we even get into the training, what we do is, because I'm currently the Vice President External Affairs, so what I do is I have to liaise with external judges and coaches, and I will ask them if they are interested in coaching our team. So if they decide that they are interested in coaching, we will call them for this selection. So how a selection works is that we prepare a problem, and the people who are interested to join, they will have to argue based on this problem that we give them. So they can choose which side they want to represent, either the claimant or the respondent, and they can also choose which issue they would like to do. Usually we have issues on the procedural aspects and also on the merits. So the participants are given an opportunity to choose which side they would like to do, and they will be assessed on various criteria. For example, their advocacy, their organization, their knowledge of the law, and so on. So the judges will then shortlist the participants who they think should be on the team. And then as for training, maybe I will leave it to Iman.
Yes.
Yeah, so Moots Club is essentially giving opportunity to these students. In any internal training, you see, when you are in contact with these coaches, and these coaches are not mere student or mere alumni, they are a real practicing lawyer, and through this, you can expand your network. And what internal training usually looks like is that we would give them a moot problem, and sometimes coaches would question the authority cited by these mooters, even though it is essentially correct. It's still some loophole in their own argument. You see, other than that, we can also look beyond mere training. It is the bond created by these mooters in their own training. And if I may just add something else, you know, when we talk about training, we have a packed schedule. And as a law student, we all have this particular predicament where we are so packed with our assignment and so on, but just don't worry about that. Go through it first and then think later.
All right, that's a very interesting journey as a law student. Not only that you have to cater with your studies, but it is actually a lot more opportunities for you to do by joining these clubs. But I have to ask Sister Yasmin, actually, how do you actually divide your time for this, actually, as Vice President, especially?
Yeah, okay. Maybe I will start how I divide my time in my capacity as a mooter first, and then I will go into how I manage this as a Vice President.
All right, yeah.
So this depends on person, but I personally am not book smart. I am not the kind of person who goes to, I cannot automatically hafal or memorize the cases that are taught in class. So how other people study is very different from how I study. And after I started joining mooting, right, it has gradually helped me in my studies, because I'm the kind of person who has to see how a certain point of law works, and I'm trained to criticize that point of law. Only then can I see to what extent is that law applicable. So for me personally, mooting has helped me a lot in my studies, especially for complex subjects such as public international law. I joined 𝒍𝒑𝒏 in my second year, and we managed to go all the way to Washington, D.C. for 𝒍𝒑𝒏. And for me, public international law is a very complex subject. But when I started participating in 𝒍𝒑𝒏 particularly, it really helped me understand on a deeper level how public international law works. So in my capacity as a Vice President, at this point, I feel like being busy is the only way for me to keep going lah. So it depends on person. Maybe what applies to me would not apply to anyone else, but you never know unless you try. That's for me.
All right, so thank you very much, Sister Yasmin and Brother Iman. So actually, we really want to know more about Moot actually and your journey as law student, but we will continue after a short break. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Legal Lens, where law talks and politics walks. Welcome back to Legal Lens, where law talks and politics walks. So for tonight, we are still in our topic for today, Meet the Moot with Aikol. And in this session, we are going to play a mini game with all of our guests, which is named Moot in a Minute. So basically, our guests, there will be various arguable topics in this container actually. Alright, so you will have to pick one letter, each of you, and then you have to choose whether to support or argue against the topic, and then you need to give your justification in 1 minute. So I will help to set the time lah. Alright, so under 1 minute. So who would like to start first actually?
I give the honor to Mr. President lah.
Alright, Brother Hazim, you may pick one. Alright.
Have a look.
Alright.
Shall I read the question out loud?
Yeah.
Alright. So we have, the question is, arguments on human rights and covenants in Malaysia.
Alright, so your 1 minute starts now.
So when it comes to arguments on human rights and the covenants in Malaysia, it's quite important to note that Malaysia is not or has not ratified all human rights treaties. In fact, for example, in the ICCPR, they are not subject to or ratify that particular treaty. However, the Constitution of Malaysia does provide individuals with a certain angle of human rights, such as freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, so on and so forth, which allows people to express themselves in the best way they can. Now, it's for these reasons exactly that courts, either local or international, have to respect those rights and give people equal opportunity to express themselves as they have been enshrined, not just within the Constitution, but also under international covenants and law, which Malaysia has ratified and which they are now bound by, save the ones they have not ratified for.
Alright, thank you very much, Brother Hazim. So, wow, it's very impressive. Yeah, you did not even take even 1 minute or a few seconds to think, just talk right away. So, let's move to next person. Perhaps Brother Iman, would you like to try?
Sure.
Yeah. Alright, so what's the topic is?
Man. Whether constructive dismissal violates Article 5 of the Federal Constitution.
Wow, quite a hard
So,
topic. Alright,
first
so
of all-
your 1 minute starts now.
Okay. First of all, we need to really understand what is Article 5 in the Federal Constitution is all about. Now, Article 5 mentioned that it is personal liberty, and personal liberty also include the right to life. And the right to life itself has been interpreted in so many different ways and widely interpreted by the courts mainly. We can see that the right to life also include a reputational right as well as the right to have a good employment. So you see, if you out of nowhere just get dismissed by a company, it will certainly affect your reputation as a human being. Not only that, it will also affect your employment. You see, if you are the breadwinner of a family, it will certainly cause great harm to your family. You need to find other jobs. You need to also find other way to earn money. And that is exactly why somehow constructive dismissal still violate Article 5 of the Federal Constitution.
Alright, wow, that's amazing. So, Sister Yasmin and Brother Hazim, do you guys convince with that just now?
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's time for Sister Yasmin. You can choose one.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay.
Alright, let's see what is the topic.
Okay. Arguments on jurisdictional values of courts.
Alright, your 1 minute starts now.
I'm sorry, brother. Is it possible I ask for a change of question?
Okay.
Yeah, there appears
Is
to
that
be a
allowed?
typo in this.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Alright, so yes, you can. I can just take
Thank
another
you very
one.
much. Yeah.
Okay, that second chance, yeah.
To be fair, I don't think there's a debate on constitutional jurisdictional values of courts. It's quite something that's established already.
Alright, like
So there's not much that you can argue. So
Oh.
perhaps we can go for something more controversial now, maybe?
I see. That's the
Okay.
words from not someone who is book smart. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright. So what's the
So-
topic now?
The topic is whether the stripping of nationality violates Article 5 of the Federal Constitution.
Wow.
Which
Alright.
is definitely more, you can say more lah about it.
Okay. Your 1 minute
Okay.
starts now, Sister Yasmin.
Alright, thank you very much. So, as stated by Brother Iman just now, our federal constitution provides for several rights. So this includes the right to life, which is governed by Article 5 of the Federal Constitution. which I believe it states no person shall be deprived of his citizenship save in accordance with law. So what falls within the classification of life within the ambit of Article 5? It has been extensively deliberated by the Malaysian courts. For example, in the case of Tan Tet Seng, Gopal Sriram himself stated that life refers to all aspects of life which are integral to one's quality of life. And it was also in this case where the court found that the right to seek employment qualifies as a right of life. However, this has been later on repealed in the 2002 Federal Court case of Suguma Balakrishnan, where in this case, the court held that in interpreting what is meant by life within the classification of Article 5, the court should not resort to a broad interpretation and should restrict it. So, the question was stripping of nationality, right? So, as we know, the Federal Constitution also provides for the means which... Okay,
Alright,
I'm
your
sorry,
time's
that's
up.
all.
Okay, so actually, are you guys ready? If you would like to add another round, if that's okay?
Yeah, I think we can do another round.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
eliminate that question.
You want to start first, Siti Yasmin?
Yeah, I can start.
Okay.
I take this one lah. Okay. Okay, the question is immunity of the sovereign states.
Alright, okay. You can go on. So, you can start now.
Okay, so as we know, states are generally prescribed immunity when it comes to public international law. And what this means is that states are generally immune horizontally. So when it comes to sovereignty, it's important for us to distinguish between vertical immunity and horizontal immunity. Horizontal immunity refers to immunity of a state before other domestic courts. For example, Malaysia cannot be found to have violated international law before the Indonesian court. However, this immunity does not extend to apply vertically, which means if an offender has violated a norm of international law, he can still, or in other words, he will not enjoy immunity before a higher court on the international plane. For example, in the case of Al-Bashir, he is not immune before the International Criminal Court, although he is immune before the jurisdiction of other domestic courts. So that is meant by immunity of sovereign states. And what is meant by state here is not exactly the state per se, but anyone who is acting...
Alright, your time's up, Sister Yasmin.
Sorry, I have a lot.
I may just add
okay.
a little bit on that.
Yeah.
You see, the wisdom behind state immunity is that is to protect the dignity of the state itself. You see, if you drag a certain country to your own domestic court, it will certainly hurt their dignity. And when a state are being hurt by their immunity, it will certainly create wars between states. And as we can see, the First World War, the Second World War, and that is why in the case of Germany against Italy decided by the International Court of Justice, the court reiterated this particular principle whereby the function of state immunity is to protect their dignity and to keep the international law world in a stable place as we are today.
Alright, so very interesting topic that we have discussed for tonight. So not only that we know how moot process is going, but Brother Iman here and all our speakers also give some enlightenment to us about international law. But I think I would like to give one more round to Brother Hazim. Would you like to pick one topic?
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll have a go at it.
Last one, I think.
Yep. No worries.
Pick the hardest one, yeah.
We'll see what you have in store for us, right? This is fantastic.
Yeah.
So the question is whether or not the MCO recently violates Article 9 of the Federal Constitution.
So MCO is referring to
This
the
is the
COVID-19.
Yes, this is the Movement Control Order in this long form during
Alright,
COVID-19.
so your 1 minute starts now, Brother Hazim.
Now, for everybody at home, during the Movement Control Order, there was a lot of uproar when it became on terms of we are now restricted, we cannot go out to buy our groceries, to do our normal functions as human beings, right? And people start questioning whether or not the government had their powers to do so. Now, it's important to note that as law students, as well as anybody who reads the Federal Constitution as well, and is in terms of enlightenment, the Article 9 specifically gives the freedom, as I mentioned before, of liberties towards people in general to enjoy their rights in a country. However, the Federal Constitution, specifically in Article 9, outlines very clearly that there is an exception to this when it comes to public health, security, or anything that is due to a national security concern. In this particular instance, during a global pandemic, a government or a state does have the authority to restrict its citizens' movement for the greater good. In this particular instance, it was the greater good to prevent the pandemic spreading further and further loss of life in a country like Malaysia. And it's for these reasons that the MCO did not violate.
Alright, that's it. So that is all for our demonstration of mooting just now. So we could see how great both our speakers here in mooting. So is there any advice that you would like to give to students out there, to the new mooters out there? Let's start with Brother Hazim first. Alright.
I'll keep it short and simple, where to the law students of Ahmad Ibrahim Kuliah of Law, I know mooting is a daunting task. I know it takes a lot of time and energy and effort and sacrifice towards you as a personal endeavor. However, the benefits that it can give you when it comes to improving the way you articulate, the way you present yourself, and the way you can think on the spot, as demonstrated here as well, is what gives you a leading edge when you go out to the actual world and we actually work and when you bump heads and you bump shoulders with the top and the legal pinnacles, such as the lawyers we have now and what has UIA produced in the law run. So mooting, ladies and gentlemen, is probably one of the best avenues you can have to exploring and expanding what you already are as a person and to give you a better future in the long run.
Alright, thank you very much, Brother Hazim. So how about Brother Iman? Would you like to give any advice to the new mooters out there?
Yeah, to the new mooter particularly, I would say that they need to have a particular courage in doing what they are doing. Yeah, if you are scared to do or to argue a particular case, you could never go far. I would say, I'm bravely say that. And also you have to have this particular endurance where, you know, when you are in training, you will usually get maki by your coach, but then it is part of process. You know, you need to improve yourself through this training, and this is why I say that you need to have resilience as well as endurance during your mooting journey.
Alright, thank you very much also to Brother Iman. And how about you, Sister Yasmin? Would you like to add any advice?
Alright, so first, I concur with what both my friends have stated, but personally, I wasn't someone who grew up with advocacy. I was never exposed to debates or public speaking in general, so when I started law school, mooting is very foreign to me. It's foreign territory, and I always thought I did not deserve to be in law school due to I wasn't brave enough to speak out, essentially. But then I gathered my courage, and the next thing I know, I was representing the country on an international stage. So I want to open this same door here for all novice mooters out there. I understand that mooting can be intimidating, but you never really know how far your potential can go unless you give it a shot. And I like to cite the words of my wise murabbi, Dr. Hisham. He teaches public international law in the Ahmad Ibrahim Kuliah of Law. He always told me, bravery and courage conquers the world. So you can be the smartest person alive, but without courage, nothing is possible. So that's just my 2 cents.
Alright, thank you very much, Sister Yasmin, for the advice. So I think we have come to the end of our discussion tonight regarding the topics of Moots with Aikol. So I would like to once again thank you to all our guests tonight. We have Brother Hazim, Sister Yasmin, and Brother Iman here. All of them are from the IIUM Moots and Client Consultation Club 2024 and 2025. So once again, I would like to promote, don't forget to follow IIUMTV social medias. We have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. And come again to see us Legal Lens next week, Friday, 9 p.m. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Legal Lens, where law talks and politics walks. Good night.